Welcome to Bayfocus. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so privileged each week to come into your home and share what God's doing here throughout the Central Florida area. And many times, ministries that we have on Bayfocus go well even beyond Central Florida. They have ministries that take them around the world. And then they have those that are just unique. And we're going to have some of that today. The two ministries that we're going to feature are also interconnected, and you want to stay tuned because you're going to find out about a ministry and a brand new Bible that's out there that you want to get, if there's any way possible. Very unique. And then a little bit later in the program, we're going to have a young man come on that is a paramedic, and the miracles that he has seen in his field. And because he's sold out to God, and how God has worked some miracles as a paramedic and healed people. And you want to stay tuned for that. But we're going to start today with a ministry called Operation Light Force. And we have the founder of this ministry with us, Richard Mull. Thank you so much for coming back.
My pleasure. It's great to be with you.
It's been a while. We had you some
long.
years ago. It's been too long.
Yeah.
It really has been. But you flagged me that you have a new thing. And that's what is so good when I hear from ministries that we've had on that all they have something new going on. But before we get into your new Bible that God is giving you the vision for, tell our viewers a little bit about Operation Light Force, because you do a lot of different things.
Yeah, we call it discipleship ministry, but I always have to define that because in my life I began to look at what Jesus taught his disciples to do. And though I had seminary degrees and ministry experience at large churches and many years of experience, the stuff Jesus taught his disciples was stuff I had never learned about. Jesus healed the sick, and he taught his disciples to heal the sick. Cast out evil spirits, taught his disciples to cast out evil spirits. Preach the kingdom of God, and you can always try to sound intelligent on a subject, but when I began to dive into what does the Word of God say about the kingdom of God, that transformed my life and set me on a really exciting, dynamic, new pathway to experience and live ministry as much like Jesus as possible.
Yeah, and this translates into a lot of different things. You have a number of books you've authored, conferences.
Yes.
Right, and do you do some shorter events, longer events? How does that work?
We do a lot of one-day events and weekend events. Been a part of a number of week-long conferences that others host, and I'd be one of the speakers, things of that nature.
Yeah.
When we travel overseas, they extract a lot of our time and energy. I mean, we'll speak many times a day and on many different locations. So that's always a lot of fun.
It's some powerful material. And just real quick, we can't focus on all of them, but just some of the titles of your books, because people can find this on your website, operationlightforce.com. And I just want to throw that out there because some incredible topics that you cover.
We were early known for the 40-Day Revolution. We have a new book for youth called The Justice Revolution, which is an exciting program. Have Jesus Training Manual, which is Jesus' strategy of discipleship and kind of my story of transformation. Lord Heal Me, which is the biblical foundation of healing. We've got God Speaks, based on the book of Acts, learning how to hear God's voice.
Yeah. The
God Speaks Bible.
Yeah.
And then we're producing Jesse's books, who'll be on the show later.
Yeah, because I mentioned early in the show, Jesse Birkey is going to be with us and in a few minutes as a paramedic in his book too. I mean, you guys are connected, and we're going to explain that in a little bit. But I want to right now focus on the God Speaks Bible. Let's hold that up, and we can show it on screen as well, because this is really different. This is brand new of what you are doing, and there's also compatible, I think, DVD series and various things to go with it. All right, I want to, this is a daunting task. You don't just, cough up a Bible in a month. It might be different from writing a book.
Yeah.
Why in the world, why did you decide to take on a different approach to Bible?
Well, to be honest, I didn't decide to take it on.
Yeah.
I was going to write a book on hearing God's voice. And anything I write on, I try to lay a very thorough biblical foundation. I'm going to study it from Genesis to Revelation, the subject. Recognize that it's going to take me some time to do that. Give myself actually years to do that in some of the books that I write. And so, because I want to know the subject better than anybody. Well, I was going to look at every time God spoke in Scripture, from Genesis to Revelation, and write notes about every one of those instances. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll copy and paste every passage on a subject, create a very long document. But I began to realize as I started that it was impossible. The amount of time that God is speaking first person in the Bible was way more than I had ever realized. So I began to color code it for my own sake, because I noticed there were different ways that God spoke, and there were passages about God's voice and about God speaking. I wanted to be able to go back and reference all of them at any point. And so I figured I'm going to go through the whole Bible. Let me just color code as I go. And I was only doing that a couple weeks when I realized when I'm finished with this, people are going to want what I've done.
Yeah.
So
that's literally, okay, it's literally what it is. What I want you to do now, because we actually don't have a full screen look at this, but hold up the Bible. Find a page that's in the color coded. I want to see a page with all the different color code, because you have, yeah, that's even good.
Yeah.
All right, just hold that up for a little bit. Let our camera get a shot of that. You have specific colors that mean specific things.
Right.
And this particular page is, I'm seeing all this. What are these colors? What does this mean?
The purple is God's voice, first person, and the purple represents His majesty. He's the king, so it's His voice. Yellow are every miracle and act of God. This was actually late in the process. I knew God speaks through His actions. It even says that in many passages. And I was revealing myself to the nations through the miracles, signs, and wonders. And then the green are every passage that talks about God's voice or God speaking. And it could be anything from the voice of God is powerful and it breaks the cedars, to the Lord spoke to Jeremiah saying, that would be green. And so every passage about God speaking. I remember one seminary class, a professor said there's only 4 passages that people use to say that God spoke. And as I just thumb through a few of these, you can see that.
Okay, now hold that one page. Go back, keep it, because you actually have a key, like a key of colors.
Right.
It's
the beginning of every book.
Every
of the
book
Bible
has a key. Okay.
Yeah, and that key shows us that it's the words of God, first person, words about God speaking. And then I had to figure out, a lot of times, most of the time prophetic is first person God speaking through a person. It's like He takes that person and speaks through them. But sometimes God gives someone a message and they relate that message in the third person. So it has a human component. And so I colorized those brown.
Okay, now the other, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm moving you along, but go finish the color.
Blue is angels, dreams, and visions.
Yeah.
Red are the words of Christ. And then gold are the miracles.
I was going to say, did you keep the red for the words of Christ?
Of course, the red was the words of Christ.
That's good. And all right, I have a question on the color coding though. Do you get confused with it at all? Do you always? I mean, is it something? The more you operate in this Bible, the more you just have it memorized in your head. What color's what? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that would be.
That's why we put the key in, because at the beginning, and what'll interest you is sometimes you may go, I want to look at every miracle of the Bible. Well, you can start at the beginning and thumb through and look at every miracle.
That is great.
And just be on that theme for a while. And we also realized, once we were done and examining this, I was meeting with Mark Verkler, who's written on Hearing God's Voice, and we realized we've colorized all the supernatural of the Bible, because when God's talking, when there's prophetic, when there's miracles, everything that's supernatural now has been colorized.
You know what I think would be an enormous help with this is if you were someone yourself out ever sharing the word or teaching, or Sunday school teachers or whatever, and you wanted to quickly, I mean, there's all kinds of helps online now, different things, but you could actually just open up to your God Speaks Bible, like you said, okay, I want to see where's God speaking about this, or I want to see this miracle or whatever. But I also think, and even in a daily devotion, when I was looking at this daily devotion, it kind of perks you up. Okay, here, this is God's going to be coming up. Yeah. God's coming.
Yeah.
He's about to say something.
Yeah.
I think that's
my
incredible.
life, because there were so many things. I realized how conversational people experience God. David was a king, and he was a warrior, and he would ask God, should I go to battle today? And God would answer his question. And then God would say, no, don't go to battle today. And then he would ask him again. He goes, yes, go to battle now, but wait for this. Very specific, detailed instructions. And it changed my life to where I'm much more conversational with God. I ask God questions and hear his voice, and he answers me. And we've been teaching people how to hear God's voice for years. But I felt like every few months going through this, it was like a quantum leap in my spiritual walk.
Well, you just said something too that's interesting to this. It's sometimes when God speaks in the Bible, it's not always a huge, theological truth. It's instructional. It's like, go here, go there, stand up, rise up. You think of Elijah under the juniper tree, and different things, different instructions. Okay, in the couple minutes we have left, how can our viewers get this to start with?
We've got a website, godspeaksbible.com. We're going to be launching it, so it'll eventually be in all the Christian bookstores, but they're being printed now.
Yeah.
And so it takes typically about 6 months. So in the next 6 months, the best place to get it is going to be on our website, godspeaksbible.com.
Okay.
And but yeah, we're getting some exciting publicity for it.
I've actually never seen a Bible like this. I know there's all kinds of other things out there that are color-coded, various things, but I don't know if it exists out there, but I've actually never seen this where you're actually just having every time God's speaking is highlighted in any way, or through others in the Bible.
Yes.
Or there's some other unique parts of it. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back because we're not done talking, but we're going to expand the conversation with actually one of your staff members in just a moment. So stay tuned. We're going to be back with more of Bayfocus.
To find out more about Operation Light Force and the God Speaks Bible, please log on to www.operationlightforce.com. To contact Richard Mull, please call 813-657-6147 or send an email to rmull@operationlightforce.com. You can also find Operation Light Force on both Facebook and Twitter. Bayfocus puts the spotlight on Tampa Bay. Join host Darlene Greenlee as she takes a look at the people and events reaching our Central Florida communities with the gospel. Plan to watch Bayfocus Wednesday mornings at 11:30 and Thursday nights at 7 right here on your CTN station.
Well, we're back and we're continuing our conversation today with Operation Light Force, and then now we're going to introduce to you another aspect of this because we have another guest here. And really the theme of today is really about discipleship and what God can do in your life when you surrender your life to Him. And we just told you about a brand new Bible and all the things that Richard Mull has done over the years. And then he's kind of mentored another young man coming on the program today. I introduced Jesse Birkey. So good to have you on. And you are connected with Operation Light Force in that you work together, and extraordinary how you guys met. Well, there's a story to that. But you have your own ministry also called Reflect Ministry.
Yes.
And you are a paramedic, and there's so many different ends because we're going to show you a video clip in a few moments too on a movie that Jesse's involved with. But first of all, Jesse, I want to show our viewers this before we even start talking, because this book you have to get. It is Jesse Birkey's book called Life Resurrected. This tells his story of seeking God and what God did in his life, supernatural things that God did in his life, and how He uses him today. And to start with, Jesse, I want to establish what Reflect Ministries. You're a paramedic.
Yes.
And that is your vocation, but you do all this ministry things too. So explain the connection here with Reflect Ministry.
Well, I think I kind of went through an identity crisis a couple of years back, and I was looking at a lot of ministries around the world, and it seemed like that many of them are focusing on one area of ministry, whether that be healing, whether that be prophecy, different things like that. And I was kind of trying to figure out where I fit in to all this. The Lord had been taking me through some different seasons into a couple different areas, and I felt like I was being pulled in multiple directions. And finally, the Lord just said, "Don't you understand that I want my children to be able to operate in many different areas, however I lead them to? One day you may be talking about marriage, the other day you may be talking about my incredible love and focusing really a lot on that. Another day you may be talking about miracles." And so that's kind of what Reflect Ministry is. We have a passion to reflect the heart of God. And however that might look, and has looked differently so much of the time.
Well, yeah, and in the book, which I want to mention too, is published. Richard Mull's involved in publishing this book with Operation Light Force. The book is just riveting. I have to tell you, it was hard to put it down. I didn't have the time to do it all at once, so I had to do it, in piecemeal. And I go, oh, this is so hard to just put this down because, and this is a real reflect ministry on you, Jesse. You had such a heart for God from a young age on, and you're still young, but you really were seeking God, and your point you just made is extremely valid, because if you become a seeker, be prepared. God could take you in a lot of different ways, and you became a paramedic, and I want to focus on that right now. If we have time to talk, because you do, like you said, a variety of different things in ministry, but you make a living as a paramedic, and you have taken your faith in God and your faith in His healing and His ability to do miracles, which you came to in a slow, steady way in your life, to the workplace. How does that play out on your day-to-day life?
Well, it was really interesting the night that the Lord began to show me that I was involved in the ministry that He wanted me to be doing as being a firefighter paramedic, because I was laying in bed just saying, Lord, okay, I'm ready. This was after He kind of shook me awake out of my lukewarm existence, and I was just saying, I'm ready to go into full-time ministry whenever you want. I'm ready to leave this. And he just spoke so gently to me. He said, where do you think you are? Where do you think I have you right now? And it was the next shift that I came to this awareness that the Lord wanted to start going with me on these calls, and I figured I might get a little warm-up, maybe a hangnail or something like that to be.
Lord, heal this hangnail.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to really pray for this hangnail. But no, I got dispatched it came across as just a sick person, and as we were approaching the home, it got upgraded to a cardiac arrest. And I'm praying on the way. I say, okay, Lord, I give this call to you. I give this time to you. I want you to do whatever you have to do. And we're almost there, and it's a cardiac arrest, and I'm saying, what is going on? This is what you have for me. Are you kidding me? This is what the first time I say, okay, let's go, and this is what you bring me into here. And so I'm walking up to the door, and I'm just praying as I feel like the Lord is giving me direction to pray. I'm coming against the spirit of death, and I'm just speaking life and just praying just as well as I can. And I walk to the back room, and there's a gentleman lying there, completely pale, not breathing, feet up in the air, just up on the bed, just laying on the floor and just not moving. And I reach down and I try to feel for a pulse. There's no pulse. And I'm thinking, okay, Lord, this is a little too big, isn't it? And He said, just keep praying, just see what I can do. And I said, okay. And as I'm hooking up the monitor, our monitor to the gentleman, I am continuing to pray, commanding death to go and speaking life and doing this and that. And I look on the monitor, and there's a rhythm playing across the monitor. And I'm thinking, whoa, that's kind of weird. And so I feel for a pulse again, and there's a pulse on this guy. And holy cow, this is really happening. And I've got this, what is going on? I didn't even have time to do anything. It was that quick, the series of events that happened. And quickly after that, he started to moan. And then started he started to breathe and started to moan. And that started coming back, and he eventually became completely aware, telling me that he didn't want to go to the hospital. And I'm looking at him, sir, you were just dead. You need to go to the hospital. Let's get on the stretcher right now. And by the time we got to the hospital, his blood pressure all his vital signs were normal. And it was just unbelievable. I kind of stumbled into this thing.
Well, okay, and then I keep promoting the book, saying this because I want our viewers to get this book, Life Resurrected. As I kept reading in the book, you chronicle case after case. You got your feet wet. You got a little more confident. You got going, and there was more and more opportunities for prayer. And then another side of this was that God began to give you, and this is a whole other story chronicled in the book. We don't have a lot of time to get into today, how you began to operate in the prophetic, how God would give you words of knowledge, how He would give you knowledge. For those that are watching don't know what that is, God impresses, the Holy Spirit impresses on you how to pray for someone, and literally gives you supernatural knowledge of that person's life. That began to happen as well. You literally were praying people into the kingdom.
Absolutely. I've come to understand, because it happened for me personally, my spiritual life was resurrected from the dead. I've come to understand that watching somebody who has been disconnected from the overwhelming, all-consuming love of God, watching them get reconnected is just as miraculous as someone being physically raised from the dead. I've come to understand that, and I've come to know that, and I love that. I love seeing people get reconnected to the heart of God. It's just completely amazing. The miracle signs and wonders, they're meant to draw people into a relationship. If that's not happening, then what's the point?
Yeah, oh, I know, and but you had specific stories of, and again, I want to say this because it's really important. Jesse doesn't just, this is not a flippant thing you go out, oh, I'm going to do this, do that. He spends time with God. To walk in the power of God, to walk in and have a word of knowledge for someone, to be able to pray somebody back from the dead, literally, and flatlining, takes a walk with the Lord and takes daily walk, takes an in-depth relationship with the Lord. But God will use anybody. He will use a young person, a middle-aged, and old. If you do the time, I always say, if you spend that time with God and you say, Lord, use me, He'll do it. Now, let me ask you this, because this is a question that's got to be on the mind of some of our viewers, all right? You're a paramedic, you're doing this, you're praying for people. How do you get away with it? You've got co-workers, people going, what is Jesse doing back there and back in the emergency vehicle? How did you do that? Because you haven't, you kind of eased it. The Lord gave you direction how to do this.
Yeah, for whatever reason, they completely ignore me.
Well, that could be for other reasons.
Nobody has said anything to me, and I know they hear me doing this,
yeah.
but nobody says anything to me. And why that is, I'm not exactly sure. But
it's
I know
favor of God.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know that there's such grace when I'm making sure that I'm being led. Every situation I ask the Lord, do you want me to step out in this way? Is this the way you want me to pray? How do you want me to pray? How do you want me to do this? And when I do that, there is such a grace. There's no complaints. There are just people being touched and set free.
Yeah, well, you started out praying, whispering, and got a little bit steadier. All right, what I want to do, tell us about because part of your passion is a real belief, and you joining with others to portray this, real belief that we can operate in the miracles, we can operate in New Testament miracles, and for that matter, do greater than, Jesus said, do greater than He did. So there was, you believe in that people can come back from the dead, that they can come back. There's a movie coming out with a fall premiere called Dead Raiser.
Yes.
Quick, tell us about it. We want to show a clip.
Dead Raiser is a movie that it strives to focus on the overwhelming love of Jesus with a special emphasis on the dead being raised again. We just feel like people need to understand, to rediscover even, that this is something that God still wants to do. And here in America, there are people over in Africa and other places that are being raised from the dead. But there seems to be locked into the Christian culture here in America that God doesn't want to do that anymore. And this film, it just strives to show people that this is something that God still wants to do. This is still His heart. That the last breath somebody takes may not have to be the last breath, that we should begin to ask the question, Lord, do you want me to pray? Is there something that you want me to do? Now, what that answer may be from Him, I can't say in each specific situation.
Yeah.
But just to ask the question, to begin to understand that God might want to do this.
Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the movie Dead Raiser.
What I'm expecting this time is that someone's going to be raised from the dead.
Young man, I say unto you, arise.
We are going to another hospital. We're going to heal the sick. And if anyone dies, we're going to raise them up.
I've seen 3 versions of the Bible to leave out the raise the dead part. Like, it's just offensive to people's mindsets.
My name is Jesse Birkey. I'm a firefighter paramedic, and over the last year or so I've had the opportunity to pray for 8 people who have been dead and seen the Lord resurrect them.
The man's eyes pop open, he stands up, starts telling everybody about how he was going to hell and he saw all these demons and they were torturing him and all this stuff. Out of nowhere he just heard this loud booming voice, and as soon as he heard that loud booming voice, something snatched him back.
This one's the actual dead people raising, so if you actually are okay with watching a dead body waking up, this one's the rated R version.
I've been praying for an opportunity to see somebody raised from the dead.
FYI, there are 2 bodies here.
Jesus said, that's why I've come. I've come that you might have life.
Okay, that'll get your attention. That'll definitely get it. Where will people be able to see this movie to start with? Because it's coming out this year, right?
Yes, it's coming out in October, and it's going to be a general population release. So it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
showing at many different churches. There's already a West Coast tour planned with the East Coast coming up shortly. Yeah. And so there's already venues that it's locked into. So.
Okay, because this brings out a whole host of questions. obviously God is in control of the times and seasons of man's life. In the end, he makes that call. However, you just said, and I thought this is so powerful, that ask the question.
Yeah.
God, do you want our faith to be played out right now? Do you want it to be that this is going to happen?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, and then you've seen it happen. That God is waiting for us to just access the power that's there.
Yeah.
Okay, we in our couple of minutes that we have left, there's two things we just ran out of time. One thing I want to say with Jesse too is that he also has an incredible testimony with his wife, and they talk on marriage and how God, you've been through some various things and put their life back together, because she had to walk with you in some, God was using you in some incredible dynamic ways, and God had to get a hold of her heart too, to go with you, and so you have a tremendous teaching on that and a book on that. But tonight I want to show the two things that we're highlighting today again. And Richard, you work with Jesse, and this has to be such a rewarding, because you guys met again. That's chronicled, and let's hold this one up. Life Resurrected. Let's hold up Life Resurrected graphic. That tells the whole story how they met. And then Richard, let's show your God Speaks Bible too. We want people to get a hold of this. That this is just a tremendous tool and asset for people to have in their lives. And if you guys were to put it, we are really short on time, put it in a word. What do you want people to come out with your ministry? And Richard, let me throw this to you. What is it that people need to come out with Operation Light Force, Reflect Ministry? What are you guys trying to say?
My heartbeat is that people would understand what the normal Christian life is all about. Because if we look at Jesus, he was, I believe, supposed to be the norm. His disciples were the norm.
Yeah.
And they did
That's good.
live a supernatural Christian life.
Supernatural is normal.
It is.
I love that.
It's
okay.
supposed to be.
Okay, we'll be right back in just a moment. We're going to tell you how you can contact Jesse Birkey as well. We'll be right back.
To contact Jesse Birkey, please send an email to jburkey@reflectministry.com. To find out more about his ministry and book, Life Resurrected, please log on to www.reflectministry.com. For more information on the movie Dead Raiser, please log on to the website www.deadraiser.com.
Well, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I just love what Richard Mull just said, that if there's a theme of today's show, it's that the supernatural should be the norm in a Christian's life, and to not be afraid of it. And they teach on this in their ministries, and how you can operate and raise the dead and healing and discipleship, and just listen to God's voice. When he says pray for somebody, you do it, and he'll make it happen. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. God bless.